What new idea comes along? Who's the contender in the 1970s in the ring?
Start.
Remember the Pride Prize match? How the next slide I started off this lecture with. Who steps in? What?
Oh, I'm thinking boxing.
This is, I call this the prize matchup in education. Developmental interaction versus direct instruction. So in the 1960s and 1970s, bad guy. No, somebody else steps in the ring. Direct instruction. Enters educational circles and developmental interaction. Isn't it funny they have the same initials? Did you guys like the YouTube, by the way? Does that help? Seeing it on YouTube? Okay. Developmental interactions response is to write, let's see, publish more materials to support their views. I actually have two documents with me today that come right out of their response. What's this? That's what the response is of developmental interaction to direct instruction. They write DAP. And it has such, and in fact it's funny, I brought my different editions because you know we just went through this revision. Okay, and if I had my very first one, I'm going to have to go get a copy of it because it's really cool. So if you have the very first one, you can see we've only had 3 editions of DAP. We've only had 3 editions of DAP, but they have had very, very, very powerful impacts in our field. And really, it's very important that you guys know it comes out of this developmental interaction approach. Okay, and so that's hint for the timeline group. It's going to be very, very important. Okay, so let's go part 2. What else is happening? Let's go part 2. Okay, go ahead. What else is happening?
We just said that when Head Start was announced in 1965, it took the Bank Streets approach as its prototype.
It takes Bank Street. Very important. When Head Start starts in the 1960. It was 68, right? Takes Bank Street's approach. 69. Okay. I think if they started in 68, but they had.
It says 69.
Yeah, 69. Okay. Okay, what else?
I said that Head Start was created as a centerpiece for war on poverty.
Okay.
Head Start and Bank Street approach believed that preschool education could provide a means to reform society.
A means to what?
To reform society.
All right. Between the 1950s and 1960s, it's very important that you understand there was a shift in society's belief about intelligence. Okay, prior to the 1950s, most people really, really would tell you that they believed that intelligence was fixed. That the IQ that you were born with was the IQ that you were going to die with. There had been, of course, in late 1800s, you get the Stanford-Binet intelligence test, and there these developmental psychologists who are beginning to talk about how important those early experiences are, and that maybe experiences are like the nature-nurture debate. Maybe the nurturing piece is more important, but really most people in society think that intelligence is fixed. And in the 1960s, this whole idea that we can create our own destiny, think about the civil rights movement, that all men are really created equal. Think about, it's hard for us to really kind of comprehend that because it's such a fixed notion for us now. where we sit. Anybody who comes through this door, when you guys look at them, you look at them as having the opportunity to have success. So when somebody walks in this door, okay, and they're not successful, whose fault do you think it is? Right. When you meet somebody and they're a high school dropout and they're homeless and they're on drugs, typically, who would you say was to blame for that? Would you say society or just themselves? Right. But before, in the 1950s, that was not really the view. The view is that, society is really just reflective of what you can do. You can't really change things. You can't change your intelligence. And so there's this shift that, gosh, maybe you can. Maybe you really can. You can change somebody's intelligence by giving them more experiences. And so there begins to be this view that there's a big test that comes out. They publish these findings, and what they find is that IQ is really related to income level. Now think about that for a second. If you believe that everyone is responsible for their own success, but yet IQ is attached to income level, okay, then what would possibly, think about this very carefully, okay, what would you possibly say was the reason that children that were born to low-income families had lower IQ scores?
They're not getting the experiences.
They're not getting the experiences. So the idea was that if we can bring these kids into rich environments and we can offer them these kinds of experiences, then we're really going to change the outcome for these children. And so really society was so excited about that. They really felt like Head Start itself was going to put an end to poverty. Can you imagine that? It's going to completely end poverty. We take these kids from impoverished families, we give them new opportunities, we provide them with instruction on socialization, and we really promote positive self-image. We are going to eradicate poverty. And there was really a sense of that. And you have to really understand that and really kind of embrace that. All right, what else?
Just like along what you were saying, there was heightened interest in cognitive development, newfound optimism regarding intellectuals. It also says that parents were no longer satisfied with life adjustment schools.
Okay.
And so they wanted more scientific approaches to education.
Okay. And this is really, now think about this, parents want more scientific approaches to education. So we see developmental interaction responding to that. Remember, developmental interaction comes out of what movement? Starts with the P. What movement? The progressive movement. So the progressives, are they really scientists? No. They've mostly been women who've been working with children, and our quote talks about how they were soft. And they've been emphasizing emotional wholeness and the well-being of children. So they really haven't produced all of these documents. So this is where we begin to see Bank Street really writing. And a lot of your book is about that, about all the writings that they're trying to produce to kind of defend their approach. Okay, let's go on to what are the obstacles. What are some of the obstacles to this approach?
They question the structure of the curriculum and the program.
Okay. All right, so what I'm going to put here is in a developmental interaction approach, there is a less structured curriculum. Okay, let me explain that. Because the focus is on who? Yeah. You get it? So you wouldn't just do a farm unit, or you wouldn't just do a healthy foods unit, because you're teaching to who? The individual, not teaching to like the whole group. Okay, so it's more about an individual child. Can you see how that's very child directed? Okay, let's structure the curriculum because it focuses on a child. What else?
They question what role the teacher plays and their abilities.
Okay. What else?
Questions disciplinary methods and then how to accomplish goals.
Okay. So they're working on setting individual goals. This is very important. there is a huge, and I cannot emphasize that enough, emphasis on the quality of the teacher-child relationship. And a lot of the writing that's coming out of developmental interaction is just about the teacher-child relationship and a lot less about curriculum. So, one of the things I said about Montessori is one of my big concerns is that Montessori closed her gate. She didn't leave it open for new ideas and new learning. She just really kind of said, I've got a great system, I'm going to close the gate. And I think that there are challenges that exist for Montessori as a universal system because of that. Because there's no way to kind of create those changes that are required as society continues to grow and progress and technology comes in and those kinds of things. Okay? Yet we still have a lot of success with the Montessori model. That's important to know. One of the challenges here for developmental interaction approach is we don't get a curriculum. Is that hard sometimes? The idea here is that it's about experimentation and trying new things, and sometimes you fail and sometimes you don't. Well, does that work for everybody? Is that hard for some people?
Yes.
I want some of you struggle. Imagine you got no curriculum and you were just taught at school, I just want you to do experiments. Just experiment. If it works well with the child, great. And really at their teacher training school, that's pretty much what they emphasized, is you would be just doing action research. So you'd be trying things out with the child, keeping notes, hopefully it worked, it maybe didn't work. Can you see how that would be very confusing? And how it would be difficult to teach? And those were some of the real challenges developmental interaction really faced, because some people came out and they were fantastic teachers, but they didn't have a developed curriculum. It was all really just about who they developed as a person to be. Okay? All right, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, going along, the lines of that, it says, I came up with, they're only as good as the teacher.
That's perfect. Right. This approach, the success of this approach is really measured by the effectiveness of the teacher. Now, can you see how different is that from Montessori? In Montessori, the teacher is a directress, actually. She isn't even the teacher. She's just really kind of facilitating, right? But here, at developmental, success really hinges on this teacher and whether or not this teacher is effective.
And then it says, the learning environment is maintaining less frequently. So basically, you're looking at the environment, which is really, really important.
Plays less of a role.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Now, here is something to note. Do you guys learn about the environment in school? Is the environment important? Do we talk about it a lot?
Yes.
All the time, right? So really, our roots here at Baker College and in most early childhood programs comes from developmental interaction. Have we changed our understanding of that? Yes, because our roots, as the mother of what we believe, did not emphasize environment. Do we emphasize environment? Do we emphasize curriculum?
Yes.
And that is one of the reasons I really believe it is important to leave yourself open to change. Because as time goes by and society learns new things, it's important that we're able to integrate those things in as well. Okay? Anything else?
A theory-based restrictions that comprehensive use of the program and learning, ego development, and socialization.
It's really hard to see because there's like a flight landing. Can you say it again?
A theory-based has restrictions on the comprehensiveness of the program and learning, ego development, and socialization.
Okay. So there were restrictions. Okay, I'm going to say it this way. A lack of theory resulted in restrictions. Say that last part again.
A comprehension of the program and learning, ego development, and socialization.
Okay. So a lack of theory results in restrictions